Thank you to Ecosia for sponsoring this video. Did it. With the Model Y, Tesla's first master plan is over. They accomplished what most thought was impossible. Bring an electric car to the masses, but also prove that it wasn't a crazy idea. And the Model Y is the start of round 2, and it's about as good a start as I can think of. I've kind of been, I guess, a guinea pig, you could say, in the Tesla experiment for a while now. Aside from the original Roadster, I've owned or released every Tesla that has come out before the Y. And Tesla's been a unique company because they told us from day one what their master plan was. And it's been available on their website for years. And it's pretty simple. They want to speed up the adoption of electric transportation. And they said they are going to produce a very expensive, limited production car, enter the Roadster. That would let them produce a still expensive, albeit less expensive, larger sedan, enter the Model S. The Model S would let them produce their mass market car, the less expensive version of their dream that could be for everybody, enter the Model 3. And there's been some deviations to that original plan, right? We got things like the Model X, perhaps my favorite car that I've ever owned with its crazy doors. It was perfect for me and my growing family. So here we are now with the Model Y, and this is the first tangible available car. In Master Plan Part 2, here's what should be dropping. So it's a beautiful solar roof. It's things like the Model Y, it's the semi-truck, it's the Cybertruck. It's filling out the portfolio of electric vehicles, leading us to full automation, where a car can theoretically make money for you. That's a completion of the vision that Elon has laid out a few years ago. Now we're still far from that, theoretically, but the cars are in place, and the Model Y is a car that is capable, that can get to that level of autonomy. The Model Y combines my favorite parts of all the other Teslas that I've driven. It's everything that I've loved about previous Tesla cars, now in one more affordable package. And all of that makes the Model Y the perfect Tesla. Here's why. So maybe perfect isn't the right word, but it's close to it. The Model Y checks, I think, more boxes for more people than ever before. So the Model Y is potentially a crossover version of the Model 3. It's a little bigger in all the dimensions. Instead of a trunk, it's got a hatchback, and you sit up a little bit higher. Now the specs you can order are all over the place, and they change a lot like Tesla tends to do. But at least as of this filming, you've got a dual motor version and you've got a performance version. And then you've got different options inside of that. The one we have here is a dual motor with the larger 20-inch tires, which look absolutely gorgeous. And I think that would be the first upgrade I would pick on any Model Y I ordered. They look awesome on the car. And I love my Model 3. I've only had it for about 6 months, so I'm only about a quarter of the way through my 2-year lease, but there are compromises with the Model 3 and things that I knew going in. I wasn't gonna be able to comfortably fit 3 car seats in the back of the car. I can comfortably in the Model Y. That 3 inches difference on the width makes a huge amount of actual real life difference when you've got humans sitting in the back. Eventually I'm gonna have to drive my now 1-year-old daughter to school in a few years, and the 3 just wouldn't work for me then. The hatch in the back is infinitely easier than having a trunk. And the Model 3 is a very generous trunk space. A hatch is just realistically easier. For those of you that are parents, sometimes you still need a flat space to change a diaper, for example, and that flat hatch gives you the option to do that. You've got the sub trunk down below, and even another kind of smaller sub trunk in front of that, where that third row would go if you opted for it. You've got the front trunk. It's amazing how much stuff you could cram into the Model Y. The Model Y definitely feels bigger inside than the Model 3. It's about 3 inches wider and about 2 inches longer, but the big difference is the height. It's 7 inches taller than the Model 3, and you feel it. Your seating position is higher. It feels more like you're driving an SUV like the Model X than it does like the Model 3. My wife, she's smaller lady, so she likes to sit up high in a car. She never really enjoys driving the 3, but she really liked the time in the Y. She thought it gave her a more open sense of the road. Also in the 3, it's got a beautiful panoramic roof on top, but there's a crossbar there. That crossbar has been totally removed with the Y, kind of giving you a more airy feel when you're actually inside of the car. Everybody's use cases for a car are different. For me, it's a family hauler. It's gotta be practical. And the best use case I could think of to try that was going to Costco. And this was an average Costco trip for a family of 5. Paper towel, toilet papers, fruits, veggies, a really big amount of stuff that I would have had a really hard time fitting into the Model 3. And as you can see, I could fit all of it in the back hatch and the sub trunk with room to spare without having to put anything in the second row floor or even touching the front trunk. And at least for me, I know if I was going out for a day with my whole family, I could take the Y and I could have beach chairs or baseball gear in the back and still have a ton of room to stop by at the grocery store. That's just not the case for me with the Model 3. So the Model Y at least gives me more peace of mind for hauling people and things.
Hey there, bet you didn't expect me. So my name's Matt, I help make the videos here, and when we were looking at the Model Y, we realized something. John and I are completely different. We have different lives. He has a family. He doesn't really go anywhere. Sorry, John. I don't have kids, but I also love to travel and do a lot of extracurricular activities. But we both still think that this is the car for us, even though we do completely different things with it. For me, I need a car that I can be in for a long time. I take tons of road trips, obscene amounts of road trips. So I'm in the car a lot. So having a car that is safe, reliable, and comfortable is important, but also I want one that is fun to drive, and the Model Y does that. So just like John, I drive a Model 3 every day. That is my daily car. And I was surprised how similar this feels to that, even though it's bigger in pretty much every way. The main thing you definitely notice is that it's taller, but usually that comes with a sacrifice of performance. You go around a bend, you feel like you're gonna fall over, but that doesn't happen here, surprisingly. I was expecting it to, but it doesn't. It isn't as nimble, that's just physics. You do get more body roll, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, and that instant torque and acceleration meant it just feels plain fast. But this car satisfies my craving of a fun car to drive. And even though this is a bigger SUV, it feels like a sports car, honestly. Now, supercharging and charging in general is just always the biggest question I have always heard and seen when it comes to not only owning a Tesla, but just road trips with the Tesla. The long-range Model Y tops out at 316 miles of range, which I have found to be completely adequate. But having that over 300 miles of range means that I never have to worry about it, which is something that, with previous versions of electric cars, you always had to. The supercharger network is, for me, the reason why I just can't see myself not having a Tesla if I'm gonna have an electric car. Being able to go across the country, and yeah, you're gonna have to stop, you're gonna have to wait to charge, but the supercharger network is, I think, one of the key selling features of not only the Model Y, but just Teslas in general. Autopilot is another area where Tesla just excels, and when you're on road trips, this is immensely useful. Being able to just set it and forget it for the most part, of course, still paying attention, but it just takes a load off and it makes going farther distances even easier. Another thing the Model Y I think is great at is, getting out there and actually doing stuff. I like to go surfing. I like to mountain bike. I like to camp. Those are all things that having more space helps with. With my Model 3 currently, I can do all of that. I just have to, strap my surfboard to the roof or strap my bike to the roof, which works, but it's definitely more steps. With this, you can just stuff everything inside. And the same goes for camping. You can either go car camping, and this is pretty big, so you can actually do that, or, you can just fit everything that you have with you. Again, with my Model 3, I have to stuff the trunk as full as it can get, and then also use the back seat. It's just limiting, and you get more space to do what you want with the Model Y. The Model Y gives you the best of all worlds when it comes to actually using it, putting the utility in sports utility vehicle.
So I get that most people out there want to do some good in the world, but sometimes doing that good can, in all honesty, take a lot of work. I have a way for you to do some good without ever having to leave where you are right now. Doing something you're already doing. I want to tell you about Ecosia. It's a search engine. and they're using between 80 and 100% of their profits to plant trees across the world. That's it. And that's really all you have to do. Actually, there's a link down below. It's ecosia.co/Jon Rettinger. If you use that link when you do your searching or download their mobile app, I can keep track of how many trees we're planting as a community. And I think that's pretty awesome to see the good that we're doing. So Ecosia's got a milestone of hitting 100 million trees planted across 20 different countries and 31 projects where they're currently active. And they're also privacy focused first, which I love. They're not selling any data. They're not tracking you. You're not gonna get an Ecosia map at the end of the year telling you all the places that you visited. All your information is safe and secure. The search results are as good as the big competitors out there, and they're using that profit to do some good in the world, which I love. I don't have to tell you, trees are important. They suck in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. They're home to squirrels, and unfortunately they are being destroyed and burned at a crazy rate. We all live on this planet, and it's a chance to do some good, doing something you're already doing. So again, it's Ecosia, ecosia.co/Jon Rettinger. We can keep track of the trees that we're planting together. It's what I'm using for searching, and if you wanna do some good in this world, it's the one you should be using as well. Talking about the Model Y kind of being the perfect car for everybody. My dad just retired. Actually, this week is his first week of retirement. And he's been sort of side-eyeing my Model 3 for a while. Was really excited to see the Model Y. So he came with me, we went to pick it up, and he was extremely impressed with the car. So impressed, in fact, that he is actually going to order one. And his use cases are vastly different than mine and vastly different from yours and Matt's. He wants a car that's comfortable, that was electric, that had some cool tech in it, that looked good, and was going to be reliable. I think what's cool about the Tesla and the reasons he was drawn to it, and really most EVs in general, is there really aren't that many moving parts. You don't have belts and hoses like you have internal combustion engine. So there's significantly less maintenance. There's less stuff that can break in the car. And for a lot of people, and my dad being one of those, that's appealing. He doesn't have to take it in every 5,000 miles for an oil change. You can just drive the car. And if he chooses to, once every year or 18 months, you can take it in for visual inspection and maintenance if you want, but you really don't have to. And I think that's kind of the beauty of what you get with an EV versus internal combustion engine car. This car doesn't just check all the boxes for somebody like me. I was astonished by how many boxes it checked for other people with vastly different use cases. So while this might be the right car for most people, it's certainly not the perfect car for everybody. There are still some fit and finish issues that can be tweaked inside of the car. The 7-seater, at least it appears to be, those 2 seats in the way back, will be relatively unusable, and perhaps you need more space than a smaller crossover can offer. The experimentation has paid off. The years of trial and error to get us to the Model Y seems worth it. And this is the starting point for phase 2. The rest of these cars in the portfolio aren't out yet. You can't buy a Semi today, you can't buy a Roadster 2, and you certainly can't buy a Cybertruck. But the foundations are here. And with the Model Y and the Model 3 and the S and the X, you don't have cars that are hardware capable of full autonomy, sort of leading us one step closer to the fulfillment of that phase 2 vision of your car doing the work for you. And we're at a point now where electric cars generally just make sense for most use cases. Range is really quickly becoming less of an issue. Superchargers are now completely ubiquitous across the country, making those long road trips really, really easy. The car is faster than cars half its size, costing 2 or 3 times the amount. It has a storage capability of a crossover because it's electric. There's more storage inside. Everything about this recipe makes sense. The Model Y really impressed me. I looked at it as just a bigger Model 3, but what that bigger aspect gave me was a much more practical car, and honestly in a more enjoyable driving experience because of what the car was capable of. Now, while the end of phase 2, full autonomy where you can summon your car to you from across the country or miles away, might not be here yet, but the Model Y on its own and taken out of a master plan is an amazing car, and one that's pretty close to perfect for almost everybody.